I mean, I used to have to finish the mix by 4, get a CD ref into FedEx, get it FedEx to the client, let them listen to it, leave the mix up overnight. They'd call me back. I mean, that was a miracle.
Yeah.
You could do that.
What's going on, guys? We are here for a very, very special edition of Unsung by Audiomovers. We're live at NAMM, and we're here with the legendary Chris CLA. How's it going, bro?
Well, thanks for having me, man. Thank you. I appreciate it. We're so happy to be here at NAMM this year. Got a lot more people, a lot more excitement, and it just shows that our business is booming.
100%. Before we really get stuck in, this was as you can see, a makeshift podcast at its best. It's not the normal one we do, but I want to give a big shout out to Sontronics for lending us their mics at short notice. I literally just went and stole them from their booth over there.
That's cool, man. Why not?
Very bright as well. Good for the podcast, but
That's it. And we're here with PMC, so Audiomovers are here with PMC this time. So this is not our usual setup. So I apologize,
It's like
Chris.
soda cans. You have to apologize. At NAMM, you wing it. You do what you got to do.
Exactly.
And we're here with, Mount Rushmore of mix engineers. You know, you're in
You
there.
heard that from Dwight Yoakam. He's the one that said that.
Oh, really? I thought I came up with that. I thought,
No, in a video.
Yeah?
In a video, like, you know, he made it. People were making videos for some sort of award I was getting. And he said, you know, Chris is like the Mount Rushmore of mixing. So, no, he's a good guy.
I'm really annoyed about it. I really thought I came up with that. But so you just got done with the most recent Green Day album. That's been...
Not just, but that was the recent, that's a big one that's happened, recently. They're up for 3 Grammys this time, like performance, rock album, rock song. We'll see what happens, you know? It's been, 20 years since American Idiot, and it's the A-Team back again. And the good thing about the record is that they had some time. Most of the time, bands are pushed up to the deadline, and they tend to procrastinate. So they were like rushing to get to mastering, rushing to make the cutoff. This time, we had some time. So we mixed the record in like 2 batches. First batch, and then they went and cut more songs, mixed those, and then did a review and just tweaked a few things. But it was great to have the opportunity that they could live with it. And we're like, oh, is it good? Is it good? Okay, mastering tomorrow. So they got, we got a chance to just make sure that anything they wanted to redo, they could do.
Yeah.
Amazing.
You mentioned American Idiot. I want to just say before we really get into it, I feel like I owe you a lot. I'm a mix engineer myself. American Idiot was the first ever album I bought, and as a kid with my own money, and it really did open up this journey into music for me. So I feel like you've been a part of my growth since the very beginning. So it's
Just call me
amazing.
Dad, then.
and what another project that I really, talking of some of the older stuff that I really loved, and this is when maybe I started to take in how important some of the mixes are, but the Billy Talent stuff, Billy Talent and Billy Talent 2. And I wanted to ask you, both those records have such aggression involved, but at the same time they have this feeling of emotion and rawness that goes through it. Is that something that you're considerate when you are mixing, in trying to embed that into the record?
Well, I think when I started working with them on the first album, because I've done everything with them, every record. So when I started doing the first record, once I heard what the band wanted, actually really sounded like, and what what they were going for, it was super dry, in your face. And it was a lot of fun. And once I honed in down to the sound, I just locked it down, and that became the template. Because Ian, the guitar player, it's all about the articulation and what he plays, because he's an amazing guitar player. And that kind of band, it's so simple, yet there's so much involved in it. And I saw them recently when I was in Switzerland over the summer. I just texted Ben, the singer, and said, hey, you guys playing in Switzerland tonight, right? All right. What time you going on? He goes, why? I'll be there.
Yeah.
You'll be there? Yeah, just have someone, meet me at the back or something so I can sneak in. And we had fun catching up. And, I love just showing up on a gig. And a couple of years before that, they were playing at the Southside Festival. And I went there to see STP because I had just done an STP record. So Dean DeLeo's a good friend of mine. So I went and saw Dean and the band, and Billy Talent, their dressing room was next to it,
Right.
and then Ian, the guitar player, was just walking down the walkway, and he's like, "Chris, what are you doing here?" Like I didn't even know they were playing, so it was fun.
yeah.
So we catch up a lot of times like that. So
Yeah, that's amazing.
they're good guys. So
Yeah. What is it like being at this stage in your career where you've had so many records now make such a massive impact, and then do you feel any sort of like, I mean,
I was gonna
pressure's not
ask-
the right
yeah,
word,
I was
but
gonna
like,
ask the
with
same
this
thing.
latest Green Day record, like, is there like I've got to beat American Idiot, it's got to sound
Well,
the same, or
the thing is, I don't have to beat anything. We're not trying to beat anything. It's just you do what you do, okay? And when you have everybody on board, you hope that the songs, you hope that you can do what you normally do.
Yeah.
There's no ever thought, oh, I got to beat this, or it's got to have that vibe, or whatever. I'm not sitting there, let me A/B what I did 20 years ago, because I'm always going to do the same thing no matter what. I'm going to go for the same thing.
yeah,
So-
you're feeding off of their energy and how they want it to
Yeah,
be.
I mean, it's when you're left, when you're left to do it on your own, you get to a certain point. But when they're there, you feel like, okay, now it reminds me of, oh, I have to do, this is what I need to do. This is what they like. This is our thing. So it helps, but it's all very instinctual. And I don't work, I mean, after like over 30,000 songs, career, lifetime, that's a lot of albums, a lot of songs, a lot of different formats.
Yeah.
I've gone through, but the thing that becomes the glue in the whole deal is still mixing in the same format with the analog console, and it's not a half-inch tape anymore, obviously, but it's still using the analog sounds. Like, look, your guitar player is always going to use a Marshall.
Yeah,
Okay,
of course.
he's
yeah.
not going to just get rid of that and just go direct.
Yeah.
So you still have the palette correctly. So that's the answer to that.
You mentioned formats. That was I didn't write it down, but it was a question I was sort of like toying with. Like, over the years, you've seen the industry progress through so many different formats and styles.
I've
of it
worked
being
on all the
released.
formats.
Yeah. What is there like one that you prefer, like, and maybe was your favorite to work with?
Are you a vinyl guy?
Yeah.
Are you kind of, or are you just keep?
No, but vinyl is a 2-track format. I'm talking about multi-track format.
Yeah.
I mean, I started when 16-track was just turning into 24-track. And then 24 became 48, and digital tape machines came out. I mean, I wouldn't go back. I like that we have all that, okay?
The flexibility.
Yeah, because, look, of course I like the way a 2-inch tape sounds, but what we can do with Pro Tools in editing is far beyond what I could do back then. So a lot of compromises back there.
Yeah.
And I think if you could combine the best of both worlds, look, if you could have if you could have tracking with 24-track, get your drum sound, get your guitar sounds in, and copy it to Pro Tools, edit from there. To me, that's the ultimate. That's really, I think, the best way. I made a lot of 24-track records or 48 analog records with slave reels, and then copied all to digital. I've gone through all that. I love the fact that with Pro Tools, I can time and move stuff and tune stuff like so easily. It's like, so yeah, but I don't let that dictate the sonics. That just makes me a better multi-track.
Yeah,
and I look at it that way. Look, with Pro Tools and those tools, you can just make a better multi-track.
Sure.
And you can have, the mixing can be a lot quicker because mixing is just engineering.
Of course, yeah.
Okay, it's just engineering. So an engineer's job is to make the record, and mixing is just the last part of it.
Right.
So you mix the record. You're still the engineer.
Yeah.
So I'm just a recording engineer, and I do a lot of mixing because I don't know, I seem to be good at it. So that's my attitude about it.
Understatement there,
But with the formats, it's like most of the people out there now don't really have much knowledge or have much use or worked in those worlds. They take it all for granted. Well, we couldn't sample drums. We couldn't move stuff around. It was all done manually. There was no.
You had to physically cut the tape to remove.
Yeah, well,
stuff,
if you wanted to move a vocal, you'd put it on a quarter inch, fly it back in a different place. You had to manually move things around. You didn't have. There's no shortcuts. There's no boxes yet.
Because we got a friend, Nick Waterhouse, and he's like a big advocate of working on tape and things like that. And he believes that
Doing it off the floor,
limitation of it almost allows him to be a little bit more creative because he has to think out of the box slightly.
Well, yeah. I mean, I had because seeing you when I watched all the mix for the master stuff, and you're there on the SSL desk, and it feels that it's very intuitive. That you don't strike me as a guy who's looking in plugins and looking at the frequencies and pulling things in and out.
Feel.
It's like it's your ears, and that's still how you prefer to work.
Well, an SSL is an instrument, so it's my piano, it's my keyboard, it's the instrument. So the great thing is I can use my plugins, I can use plugins, I can use that to modify the signal because I know the limitation of what I can get out of the console.
Sure.
I know that a lot of times I'm better off doing certain moves, certain moves inside a computer.
Yeah.
It just makes life so much easier. Because remember, the console's there to get the sound, use the automation, use the sonics. Okay, so the easier you make it going in, the better it performs.
Amazing.
So,
Yeah.
And back with 2-inch tape, every gate's in. You got to do a lot of mutes. So I find myself not even doing any mutes anymore because I do them in Pro Tools. I do it. It's like if it's not going to be in, well, I can mute it a lot easier.
Yeah,
I don't have to worry about muting anything.
Yeah.
Which,
Just the flexibility just takes everything to another
well,
level, really.
Then you're only worried about the balance in the mix and the effects and what you're going to do with it. I'm not worried about, I got to mute this here. I got to turn that off there.
You've obviously we've spoken about your career a little bit over the last 20 years and how many amazing records you produced. For the guys watching with all ages,
well, mixed. Some
of
produced,
course, I would love to know how did you actually get started in this industry? Like, what was the door that opened for you that you ended up becoming a recording engineer?
Yeah.
Well, the door that opened is very simple, and a door that doesn't open for many anymore because it doesn't exist, which means my mother's a jazz musician, and she realized that I didn't want to go to school, and I had a little talent for it. And she said, I got to get this kid a job in a studio before he drives me crazy.
Right.
I was only 13 years old, so I became an assistant at 13, and I never left.
Nice.
Wow.
Ever.
13.
So I never did anything after that.
Right.
So once she started taking me to work and I had people drive me to work, I mean, that's the core of it. I was taught under a really good teacher, Steve Jerome, and I learned the most important things, which was discipline, focus, the things that's really hard to find now. So I was taught, and the guy who taught me would make me do it over and over again until it was right. And I'll tell you, it was painful at times, but it stuck.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, and literally, the place he was working at, they had just built it a year before with an MCI tape machine, an MCI console, 28-channel console, and a 24-track tape machine. And this was all so exciting to have 24 tracks. It was we have so many tracks now. So that was the world. It was 24 tracks.
There's a lot of people watching this that don't even understand that
No,
world.
the only effects you had, literally, was an Eventide delay, which had 5 delays. Well, I think it had 3 or 4. You used a quarter-inch machine for pre-delay on your reverb. Okay?
Right. Yeah.
You had the reverb. That was it. And then there was this harmonizer 910 thing, which is more of a gimmick, but use that for short delay. That was the effects you had. Period.
Yeah.
And there was 1176s, Pultecs, and API EQs, and LA2As.
Yeah.
So literally,
Yeah.
I learned with just a very small amount of tools.
And were you using and is there did the studio have a chamber and stuff like that? Were you doing
They did not
that
have a
kind of-
chamber. They had 2 EMT plates.
Okay.
So you had 2
nice.
plates.
So you could get a
So
plate
you had 2
reverb,
plates,
yeah.
and that was it.
That
That was your reverb.
That was
And
your
And then
reverb.
eventually the 224 came out. So I think I got a 224 reverb, and then the Yamaha NS10s showed up one day, like as soon as they came out, and
Yeah.
that became because the console had Oratones on it,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
Big Reds. You had the Yuri Big Red speakers.
Right.
But I mean, I learned really good how to make records on that, and that's all we knew.
So
So-
you get your 10,000 hours.
You were assisting at everyone seems to have a similar story where the head engineer is off sick
Chief
or whatever.
engineer,
Chief engineer, and you get your opportunity to step into the hot seat. Do you remember the record and when that was?
If he just gets up and leaves the room, you move over and sit there, and you take over in the session. If he's going to the bathroom, he's going to get a coffee. You just get up, you sit there because you're running the remote.
Right.
Yeah.
You're running the tape. You're in charge. You're driving.
Yeah.
okay? And the producer's there. So there's a chain of command.
Yeah.
And you respect it. And you keep your mouth shut.
Yeah.
You don't say anything.
Yeah.
I mean, I have guys that come in and look, if you're in a session where the engineer, the producer, and someone who's a guest of the band comes in and just comments about an idea they want, I'm like, and you're here for what now? I said, excuse me, but you can listen, but please, this is not the place to be suggesting I do something different.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm the producer, okay? So yeah, I think what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of people that will just not even know the protocol or the respect and walk into a situation where you have an engineer and a producer working on something, and they just have to infuse an idea, and there's no place for you to do that.
Yeah. Of course.
It's actually insulting. It's like disrespectful. It's like if the producer asks you, hey, you have an idea for this? That's one thing. Okay?
Yeah.
I learned that you don't open your mouth. You don't offer, hey, if you maybe, try this, be better there. No, if they ask you.
Yeah.
And when they would ask me, I'd say, well, I would, maybe if we do this, be better.
Right.
And I learned that. Keep your mouth shut.
Okay.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
this something that you still sort of like implement in your like working situation now, like in your studio when you're running sessions?
It's basically it's an
Unspoken rule.
It's an unspoken rule. That's what
Right.
it is. I mean, you
Yeah.
don't try to undermine the boss. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
Well, look, I've had artists I produce where, they have like a parent or somebody show up or a friend show up, and they want it. They offer advice on what I'm doing. I'm like,
yeah. Giving you
Yeah.
mixed
I said,
tips.
no, producing tips.
Oh,
I'm like,
yeah. Yeah.
Oh, right.
it's like, you know what? I appreciate that you care, but
Yeah.
this is my situation. And if you want to produce the record, you have better ideas. I'm glad. I'm sure I could leave, and you guys can go figure it out somewhere else.
Yeah.
So I kind of discreetly shut it down.
Right.
Anyway.
Fair enough.
And in
Yeah.
terms of that thing of that respect and kind of, cultivating those relationships, and you gradually go up the ranks, what would be the secret? Because with certain artists, I mean, I'm thinking about pulling it back to Green Day again. It's really been, that relationship now is 20 years deep plus. I don't know, is there a secret? How do you kind of cultivate that relationship with an artist and that trust? And
that's a good question. Look, with any artist, like your value is you're part of the band. You're a team player, okay? So you're there to supply what they need, and they trust you. So since Nimrod, they have. Now, they've taken a couple of left turns, and they realize that they weren't successful for them with somebody else. And that, look, if you want to try somebody else, go ahead. I know you're going to come back because I know where the bodies are buried. And there's a certain sound I'll create with a band, and they like it. So after you've done a lot of them, it's nice when they come back and they rely on you. They just know that this is what Chris is going to do. Chris is going to take care of that. And now with this Atmos stuff, which this band does not want to do and didn't want to do, but when I did it, and they were just want to make sure it matches the original.
Okay.
So when they go up to iTunes and switch between the two, okay, that it doesn't change the sound of the record.
Yeah.
So we got over that hurdle, and there'll be more. Well, Atmos, American Idiot, but the good thing about that, I had all the mixed notes, I had all the recall pages, all the gear. I said I matched it perfectly, and then I was able to create the breakouts that I needed to create the Atmos, and that's like with all the bands that I do that for. They trust you because they trust you protect their music.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
And that's really what it is. You're protecting their sonics, and you're fighting for their sound.
Yeah.
And that's why they come back. They come back because you believe it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an interesting point you mentioned about the Atmos. And I'm quite curious with when it comes to like the rock genres, what your process is, because you're saying you're trying to keep it as close to the original as possible, which I think a lot of us are. I do a lot of hip hop, and for me, I can take the ad libs and put them at the back and do things like that, and I get away with it and it stays the same. What's sort of like the elements that you feel like you can grab in those songs and then, turn it Atmos.
Every song just dictates how far you can go with it. That's all. Every song will have some part in it that wants to do some, that wants to do some acrobatic moves.
Yeah.
But generally, it's about making it sound three-dimensional and utilizing it not as a toy or a trick pony, but as something that just puts you inside the record more.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think that's a secret. Sure, there's some songs. There's definitely some songs that you want to have some fun with.
Yeah.
That are built that way. And even on their record Nimrod, they had a song called "Last Ride In," which is like this groovy little atmospheric surf song.
Cool.
And that was the one that was the most three-dimensional
Yeah.
stuff moving around because it called for it. So
Yeah, you could have fun with it.
but I think Atmos is an add-on. Okay, it's a new format, but you have to respect what they fought for, what people know about the original mix.
Of course, yeah.
So let's talk about what you guys do.
Audiomovers.
I'll tell you how it works. Pretty seamless for me. And I have a couple of clients. The great thing about your product, here's the great thing, is that you can shut the mix down. Okay? You have the client listening on their speakers. You're there. So it's like, speak now or forever hold your peace.
Sure.
Yeah.
They're able to give ownership to the mix. Because look, unless you get ownership on the mix, that's the seal of approval. So when the band shows up, you get ownership on the mix, right? If the band if it's just the producer or the artist can hear it in their speakers, you get ownership of the mix. When they say, "Yeah, just turn my double down or turn my harmony down or whatever," and you make that change, it's over. Okay,
Sure.
and your thing works seamlessly, and the quality works well. I have not had one problem with it.
Yeah.
I remember doing this with Springsteen with the goddamn Dolby fax and the ISDN lines and how expensive it was to get it to go.
Flying it overnight.
And I
and all that, yeah.
Still doing it with Bruce. He still wants to do the FaceTime. So
Right.
look, I really prefer when it's just music's going to them and they're texting you, and that's it, and then they call you. So it works out great, and I'm sure
it's just like real time feedback, and you don't have to worry about logistics and stuff like that.
Yeah, I
Just
try
get
to
it
do.
done,
I try to do it with people that want to do it. Look, if you're in front of the speakers that you know well and you got something to say, let's get her done.
Yeah.
Because everybody wins then. Then it's not all got to put it up a couple days later. Whatever.
Yeah.
But it's nice it gets done that way.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Amazing.
They got a great new feature. It'll be out by the time this episode's
Yeah,
out.
so now we got 128 channels, talk back, listen back, local
talk back.
video sync for
Crazy.
guys working in film.
Well, I just use the
stuff.
talk back on the console. Works great.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
but they can have talk back.
Yeah. So,
But what does it? You can select where channel. You can select where it comes out.
Yeah, and I mean, if they're
It's
if they're
handled,
listening out of their speakers, then it will stop there and give you the cut through. So you're not getting the feedback.
There's two ways. So because different people use talk back in different ways, so there's two ways you can use it. You can tap to talk, or you can
I mean, it's been helping me to close mixes, and I mean, look, if you add features on that makes the communication better, great. I mean, you certainly can't have it videoing in real time because of the delay. But if you could just have ways to communicate quicker, just get her done.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm going to get in trouble with the Mount Rushmore of audio marketing, Roddy, who's out
Are
there.
we out of time?
Thank you so much,
I mean,
Chris.
I think it's a great product, and I think that
Oh,
everybody.
giving too much away.
No, but I'm saying here's the whole thing about your product, all right? Is that this lets guys like me mix anywhere,
Yeah.
and I'd prefer to have my studio in Lucerne, Switzerland, and just be there
Yeah.
and figure out the time change, and then to take this product and advance it to the point where it's seamless with all the clients. It makes everyone feel like they're there, get what they want, and I think it's a great idea to just conquer time and space, because the biggest problem I've had my whole, not the problem, but I mean, I used to have to finish the mix by 4, get a CD ref into FedEx, get it FedEx to the client, let them listen to it, leave the mix up overnight. They'd call me back. I mean, that was a miracle.
Yeah.
You could do that.
Yeah. But
yeah.
still so time consuming.
Oh, before that, like they would always show up. They had to show up.
Yeah.
Okay? There was no other way. They were showing up. If they wanted to say something, they showed up. So we've gotten so far past that where I could be on the friggin' moon. It wouldn't even matter.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great tool that everyone needs to have that works with clients that aren't in the room, is to really get them. And I teach my students, like, look, if you can get them to stream it and get them to sign off right then and there,
Yeah. Happy days.
well, then happy days. Is that what she said?
Yeah.
Well, then look, I mean, the thing is with our gig, okay, we're not getting rich. If we were gonna, if we want to get rich, we'd be in real estate or something, or politics. They rip everything off anyway. But,
Hot tip for the kids. Yeah.
so our price per hour, if we're getting a fixed price to mix a song, well, every hour or every minute we waste, we make less and less money in the big scheme of things. This helps us just get the job done. And a lot of times when you're dealing with an analog console, you have the song up, you want to close it right then and there. Your recall may be 100%, but maybe it's 99.4%.
Yeah.
There still might be a tick or something like,
Of
oh
course,
shit,
of
a bad switch is making something go bad. So I think it's a great idea.
Amazing.
I think it works great. So stick with it.
Nice
Yeah.
one. Thank
And,
you. Thanks, Chris.
yeah.
Right, appreciate it.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you, PMC. Thank you, Songtronics.
Yeah.
We're here at NAMM.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah,
All right.
and make
Keep
sure
it
everyone
rocking.
watching, you like, subscribe, do all that good stuff, and yeah.
There you
really
go.
Appreciate
All
it,
right.
Chris.
Rock on. Thanks
Super
again.
honor.
Mate,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
See you next time. Have a good nap. Ciao.